My time at King's coincided with Harry Craig's, almost exactly. And for me, privately, those years were what I once read described as the nightmare no man's land between Meccano and sex. And it certainly felt that way to me. I think we were, at the time, unaware of how lucky we were to be at King's. As alluded to by Michael McIntyre, where, for example, could you be invited upstairs by a young man in a gown, asked to bend over and have your backside caned, all for nothing, when I know one or two of our number might pay good money for that today. My own obsessions, however, were not catered for by King's. On the one hand, I wanted to be a painter, and there was no art room at King's. And on the other hand, I'm sure you won't be embarrassed to hear that the difficult question of sex was an obsession for me. So in both cases I had to practice in private in my own bedroom. And very sadly, it was a great many years before I got to demonstrate my skills in either field to anyone else. But I do tell a small lie. The school did cater for sex education in the form of a lecture by a visiting lecturer at the end of our sixth form year. In our case, you may remember, it was Sir John Walsh, the Dean of the Med School.
Dental school.
Dental school, of course, dental school. I had that written down. Dental school, and that's an important point. Because I could never quite understand the connection between dental hygiene and sex. And I have to say that I regard the toothbrush now with considerable anxiety. Have done for all my life. I don't know about the gentleman in the audience, but for me, the memory of boys at school, as they looked at school, in school uniform, shorts, long socks, cap even, that memory is seared indelibly for me for most of the boys that were in my time at school, including the seniors. And when I see them now, I see them automatically and instantly as I saw them when I was a third former, for example, and they were possibly sixth formers. And just a couple of examples before I go. I can't see MJB Deaker now without seeing him, as I did as a rather pathetic little nerdy third former, on one spectacular occasion when Murray was ritually humiliated by the headmaster by being required with one other companion, another recalcitrant, who had been found in school uniform in the bar of the Oval Hotel at school time. And they were required to stand at the front of the assembly hall amongst this little tittering crowd of giggling third formers. And it was like two mighty oaks amongst the undergrowth as they stood there. And I can tell you, Murray, I think you are here tonight, I saw you earlier in the day somewhere. I can tell you that you were never more godlike to us than you were at that moment, and you certainly have never been since. And I'll take this last chance, if I may, to just recall one other thing about a similarly famous old boy who was not known to me really. But in the third form, in that dreadful first week after summer, when it seemed to be the hottest week of summer when we had military training, and in my third form year I had, as a sergeant in my platoon, Laurie Mains. And beside me in the front rank of our platoon was a wonderful man who I loved instantly, called Stephen Satchell. And I'll never forget, we were very afraid of Mains, as I suspect a lot of people might still be. And he was very stern to us. And on one lovely occasion, which I have been unable to forget ever, Laurie Mains was required, because of some company parade or something like that, to bellow out, "By the right!" And beside me, Stephen Satchell sang, "Of the silvery moon." For which he was consigned immediately by a rather angry Laurie Mains to defaulters, and spent the rest of the afternoon carrying a rifle above his head around the perimeter of his district. But I loved it. And I think at that point I should say that I'm humbled by this recognition. I happen to work in an area which is more public than most, and I know that people in my sort of role get far more attention than they deserve. That there are people in this audience who I believe personally should be ahead of the likes of me on any wall of fame. But that's the nature of my job, and I've been very lucky. The last thing of all is there is never a gathering like this without the name, in our group at least, the name Reg Grahame being mentioned with great affection and admiration, and remarks made about the extent of Reg's influence. It certainly was for me. He wasn't alone. I know very well what wonderful support the likes of Reg got from his mates in the staff. And Ian is here, and one or two others I know were equally important to us. But I think Reg Grahame is the reason why so many King's Old Boys have gone on to interesting and notable careers in the arts and the media. He was a glamorous figure, and he made it acceptable for a lot of boys who were not being catered for by the school in their interests and obsessions to follow that path. And I would like to leave with this suggestion, a very serious one, that I think the Performing Arts Centre should be named in Reg's honour. That's my opinion, and thank you for your attention.